Imagine going to work every day, following rules you never questioned, accepting conditions you assumed were normal, and trusting that everything happening around you is completely legal, only to discover that some of those rules were never actually the law to begin with. Not officially, not legally, just quietly accepted practices that benefit your employer more than they protect you. And the most surprising part? No one ever told you to question them. This is how many employees live their entire working lives, operating inside a system built on assumptions that over time doesn't apply to them, assumptions that staying late without pay is just part of the job, assumptions that speaking up will only make things worse. These beliefs don't come from the law. They come from repetition, from workplace culture, and sometimes from what employers choose not to explain. And when something is repeated enough times, it starts to feel like the truth. But here's where everything changes. The moment you start separating workplace rules from actual law, you begin to see things differently. Because in the United States, employment laws are designed to protect workers, not to make life easier for employers at your expense. The problem is not that these laws don't exist. The problem is that many employees don't fully understand them, and that gap in knowledge creates a space where rights are quietly ignored. Take working hours as an example. You might be expected to respond to messages after your shift ends, to finish tasks at home, or to stay late without extra pay. Over time, this becomes normal. Everyone else is doing it, so it must be okay, right? But the law doesn't operate on what feels normal. It operates on clear standards. If you are working, you are supposed to be compensated. The idea that this is just how the job works is not a legal justification. It's a habit, one that often goes unchallenged because employees don't realize they have the right to question it. Another area where the truth is often hidden in plain sight is classification. Some workers are labeled as independent contractors instead of employees. On paper, it might look like a simple technical detail, but in reality, it changes everything. Contractors don't receive the same protections as employees. They may not be entitled to overtime, minimum wage guarantees, or certain benefits. Employers may present this classification as standard, something that can't be changed. But the law doesn't rely on labels. It looks at how the work is actually performed. If your role functions like that of an employee, then calling you a contractor may not be legally valid. Then there's the issue of pressure, the kind that doesn't feel aggressive, but still influences your decisions. You might be asked to sign a document quickly, told that it's routine, nothing to worry about. Or you might be encouraged to accept new terms without asking too many questions. This kind of pressure is subtle, but powerful. It creates a sense of urgency that prevents you from fully understanding what you're agreeing to. But here's the truth. You always have the right to take your time, to read, to ask questions, and to seek clarification. No legitimate agreement should require blind trust. Workplace safety is another area where assumptions can be dangerous. Employees sometimes accept unsafe conditions because they believe they have no choice. Maybe it's faulty equipment, lack of proper training, or environments that feel physically or mentally stressful. Over time, these conditions become part of the routine. But the law requires employers to provide a safe working environment. This is not optional. It's a responsibility, and when that responsibility is ignored, it becomes a serious issue, one that employees have the right to report without fear of punishment. Fear is one of the most powerful tools that keeps employees silent. The fear of losing a job, the fear of being treated differently, the fear of being labeled as difficult. These fears are real, and they influence decisions every day. But what many people don't realize is that the law specifically protects employees from retaliation. If you report a violation, raise a concern, or participate in an investigation, your employer cannot legally punish you for it. And if they do, that action becomes a separate violation. This protection exists to give you the confidence to speak up, but it only works if you know it's there. Harassment is another issue that often goes unaddressed because it doesn't always look extreme. It can be subtle, repeated comments, uncomfortable behavior, or an environment that makes you feel uneasy. Employers may downplay it, suggesting that it's not serious enough to act on. But harassment is not defined by how extreme it looks. It's defined by how it affects the work environment. If it becomes persistent or creates a hostile atmosphere, it crosses a legal line, and ignoring it doesn't make it go away. One of the biggest misconceptions employees have is about termination. Many believe that if they are fired, there's nothing they can do. They assume the employer has complete control over that decision. While it's true that many jobs operate under at-will employment, meaning you can be terminated without a stated reason, there are limits. An employer cannot fire you for illegal reasons, such as discrimination, retaliation, or for exercising your legal rights. If any of these factors are involved, the situation changes completely. But if you don't know these limits, you may never question the decision. Another hidden reality is how small violations can build over time. A missed payment here, an unpaid hour there, a policy that doesn't quite follow the rules. Each one might seem minor on its own, but together they create a pattern. And patterns matter, because when you start documenting these issues, when you begin to see them clearly, they form a much stronger case than any single incident ever could. Documentation is one of the most important tools you have. Every message, every schedule, every instruction that feels unusual. It all matters. Keeping records doesn't mean you're expecting the worst. It means you're prepared if something goes wrong. It turns your experience into something concrete, something that can be reviewed and understood. Without documentation, even valid concerns can be difficult to prove. With it, your position becomes much stronger. Taking action doesn't always mean confrontation. It starts with awareness. It starts with asking questions, verifying information, and understanding your rights. From there, you can decide your next steps. Sometimes it's raising the issue internally. Sometimes it's seeking advice. Sometimes it's exploring formal options. The important thing is that you are no longer operating in the dark. You are making informed decisions based on knowledge, not assumptions. What makes all of this so powerful is the shift in perspective. When you move from "this is just how things are" to "is this actually legal?" everything changes. You become more aware of your environment. You start noticing things you didn't see before. You begin to recognize when something doesn't align with the law. And that awareness gives you control. Not over everything, but over how you respond. Your employer may have more information, more resources, and more experience, but that doesn't mean they have unlimited power. Their authority is defined and limited by law, and those limits exist for a reason: to protect you. When those limits are crossed, it's not just unfair. It's something you have the right to address. So if you've ever felt like something wasn't quite right, like certain rules didn't make sense, or like you were expected to accept things without question, don't ignore that feeling. It's often the first sign that there's more to the story. And the moment you start looking deeper, asking questions and understanding your rights, you begin to uncover the truth that was always there, just hidden beneath assumptions. Because the reality is simple. They don't always tell you everything. Not because they have to hide it, but because they know most people won't ask. And the moment you do, the moment you start learning and understanding, you step into a completely different position. One where you're no longer just following rules, you're understanding them. And that changes everything.